Good evening. Welcome to the garden. I just got back from a weekend away in Columbus, and outside of getting reset from being away, one of the very first things I do is come out and check out the garden. One of the first things we do often when we get back is we move the chickens back out into the chicken tractor. When we're away, it's just easier for other people to take care of them. If they're in their stationary run here, than needing to move them every day. But my girls are to a point where mama's not allowed to help, so I have to kind of stand and watch and just be there if they need the help. And I was standing in this very spot. I just think this view right here of the garden is just absolutely beautiful. Not even know if the camera does it justice, but wanted to share that perspective. So going through the garden, some of the things that need attention. The onions look like they're starting to be steamrolled. That's a sign they're ready to harvest, so those need to be harvested. I do like to keep something growing in all spaces of the garden, even if it's not something that I'm planning on harvesting. I'll show you an example of that. This live edge bed that I replaced the bricks in here a few weeks ago. We planted buckwheat in here. That's what this is right here. The plan is to plant some peas in here for this fall, but I always want the soil covered or growing something, so I just planted the buckwheat there to keep the soil growing, to feed the soil, and shade out the weeds, and it's doing a lovely job of that right now. When we get closer to time to harvest, I'll just come in with a pair of shears, snip that down, drop it where it lies, and that will be a little bit of ground mulch for the garden. The roots will break down under the soil. We'll plant some peas, hoping for a better pea harvest this year or this fall. They did not want to grow for us this spring. Now, this right here, all of these white flowers, that's 2 carrots that overwintered from last year that I just let grow. Isn't that unbelievable? I think that's so beautiful. This year I'm going to try to harvest some of the seed. I meant to last year because there was a carrot that had overwintered and I didn't get to it, and it seeded these 2. And so, let's see. This bed here might be some of the most gorgeous onions I've ever grown. They're starting to fold over, and that all happened since I left. Look at the size of some of these. They're just absolutely beautiful. Got some really nice reds that haven't completely finished out yet. In case you missed it, I published a short saying when they fold over like that, that's showing that they're done growing. I typically pull them, lay them in a single row or single layer, like a plastic crate, put them under a covered patio, and allow them to cure till the greens have completely dried up and there's no green left. Trim that off, trim some of the root off, leave a little bit of stem, and then store it in the basement. These are our volunteer potatoes. I tried to plant other things along this back bed. Apparently I'm just very bad at harvesting potatoes, and I leave too many there. So there's a lot that came up. The vines are dying off here. It's time to harvest. We did harvest some before to take on our camping trip with us. They were delicious. So those need to be harvested. Tomatoes need to be tied up. Garlic. We've got 3 different kinds of garlic. When you're a little bit more than half, between half and 3/4 brown, it's time to harvest. I think like the garlic that's right in the center is ready, so that needs to be dug. I think that's going to be tomorrow morning. And then any places that I have bare soil, I'm either trying to decide what am I going to plant here to harvest, or what am I going to plant here just because I want something growing. Am I going to just throw some beans in because I have some extra bean seed? Am I going to throw some buckwheat in because I have a ridiculous amount of buckwheat? the flowers are absolutely beautiful as well. Zucchini always gives more than you can keep up with. I always plant a small amount of zucchini and it still produces plenty. Nala desperately wants to be sprayed with a hose for the third or fourth time this evening. It is one of her most favorite things in the world, but pretty much once she got home, she went directly to the end of the hose and laid there and just watched us in hopes that somebody will spray her. Look at that face. Oh, the hose right there. Is your hose right there? Can't say no to that. All right, and here's our table of multiple things growing. In one of my last videos I showed we transplanted these volunteer tomatoes into some pots for a friend that's moving in and was hoping to get a little container garden started. Doing pretty well, so I have high hopes for that. We started, my daughter and I started broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. We ended up not starting cauliflower because I didn't have any seed. I think that packet must have gotten dumped. And then I ended up buying a kind of seed that says it must overwinter. It's not for spring or summer planting, that it must overwinter to harvest. Has anybody ever heard of cauliflower like that? But anyway, I have a package of that seed, but there's no way I'm gonna get, unless I had a lot better of a system for getting things through the winter, there's no way I'm gonna get cauliflower to make it through the winter here in Western Pennsylvania. So we've got cabbage, broccoli up. Brussels sprouts, nothing so far. So we'll see how that works out. More cabbage and yeah, more broccoli. We've got some baby onions coming along. And these even dried out a little bit while we were gone. And they're coming along okay. And then of course, me being me, I looked at this amount right here and was like, well, that's not enough. That's not enough for me to plant for myself and to share. So we planted some more. I'm so excited with how these Amish paste plants look. We have one that's all the way at the top of the trellis, and I would say, so I'm 5'7", so that's about 6 foot. So we've got a plant that's hit 6 feet. I think the tomatoes look fantastic on them. Really excited to see how this new garden part produces. I said in a video that I posted over the weekend, just a short video, but I said, you know, this was all started last summer. We started this right around now. Maybe it was August, but right around now, we just made the decision, let's add on for next year. And making that decision then and starting the process the summer before I actually wanted to plant made this pretty easy. This space was prepared. Now we did get to use our chickens, which I know is an advantage because you have the scratching and the manure and all of that. That does help. But just by covering it with organic material heavily, and then we did use some brown paper, our chicken feed bags, this whole space up here, which ends up being 12, 16, 21 tomato plants. I have 33 potatoes planted up there and 10 hills of squash, plus some black beans. Was prepared just using, I think, a rake and a hand shovel. That's it. So not a lot of tools required. Now, yeah, we did pound these in with a fence pounder. And also, you know, the help of my husband. So if you're thinking of making a garden bed for next year, just covering the space that you think about, they're thinking about making your garden for next year with some brown paper or some cardboard. Do your own research there. I do believe like even organic certifications, provided they're removing all the tape and there's very little print on the boxes, cardboard is okay in their certification. Again, do what you're comfortable with. So covering it with cardboard, covering with brown paper, getting down grass clippings, getting down your fall leaves. And actually, do you see we're getting a little bit of fall color on that maple already? So fall leaves are not that far off. Utilizing that resource makes being able to plant next year so much easier. All right, I'm gonna come through and tie up any of the tomatoes that look like they need a little tying up in here, also in here, and then I'm gonna go in for the evening. Needed some time outside in my garden. Thank you so much for joining me, and maybe we'll see you doing some harvesting tomorrow.